really excited to have Gene. Gene, you're coming for the third time, right? To KNOWNpreneurs. And Gene has been an advisor to many companies, global companies, and he's great at teaching you how to scale your business, but especially how to scale your business in a lean way. It's very interesting the way he takes a business and shows you the process of growth. In the first in the application, many of you expressed your desire to learn this, to learn how to grow a business and what it takes. And this is exactly what Jim is going to be showing you today. We had the financial statements first, and then Jim was coming later, after we tackled the business plan and all that. So we're doing things a little different this time, but I think it's going to be okay that we do the scalability first. Please take advantage of this class. Jim brings a wealth of knowledge. So I know there's businesses that are in personal care businesses, distribution, manufacturing. Some of you work in mental health and all that. So whatever it is that you're growing, it doesn't need to be like global scale or anything like that. It could be very small. It could be a new product that you're going to launch. It could be a new channel that you're going to open. Jim is the right guy for you to ask those questions. So please take advantage of this. Thanks, Jim, for coming today.
Thanks, Juan. Let me give the objectives. Unless you have it, you can put it on the screen. If not, I'll just go through it. Okay, what we're going to try to do today is that, first of all, I'm Jim Nicholas, as Juan had mentioned. I would like for each one of you to go through, give me your name and your company, so that I can get some familiarity with you as we go through the presentation. So, Don, we can start with you.
Hi, Jim. I am a KNOWNpreneur from cohort 1. I am also a technical advisor for KNOWNpreneurs right now.
Yes, I know. That's okay, because the other people did not know that from you, so now they know who you are too.
So okay, I'm going to absorb some more. Like this is going to be reinforcement for me. So I appreciate that. I have a small business that is growing, and it is DHJ Consulting. I do management and healthcare consulting. So I'm going to take this chance to give it to someone else, and I'm going to toss it to Melissa.
Hello, my name is Melissa Pearson. I own LaPierre Clothing Co., which is an inspirational clothing and jewelry brand.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Melissa, then you call someone else?
I'll call on Aaron.
My name is Aaron Rogers. I'm the founder of the Breed Academy, which is a music and arts institution.
Okay, Aaron, you can call someone else.
Kim.
Hi, my name is Kim Weston. I am the owner of Wabi Arts LLC, which is a arts program and gallery about to be built, specializing in diversity and sustainability for artists.
Kim, who would you like to select?
I am going to select Renee.
Thanks, Kim. My name is Renee Griffin, and I am the owner of Track House Beauty Salons. We do hair, beauty, makeup, nails. We have esthetician, waxing. So all things beauty is what we do here at Track House. So that's my business. And I'm going to throw it to Crystal Harris.
Yeah, there are two Crystals, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Crystal Harris. I own Studio Cleo Rose in Milford. It's a natural and healthy hair specializing in natural and healthy hair. I am looking to grow, and as of now, that's what I'm doing. So I'm gonna now send it over to Savitra.
Hi, I'm Savitra. I'm the owner of Thrive Haven, which is a private practice focusing on mental health in the Black community. and I've been in practice for 1 year, and I'm going to go to Kwame.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Kwame Asari. I'm owner of Oshito Pepper Sauce. We're manufacturers and distributors of Ghanaian pepper sauce condiments. Been in business for about 9 months now. I'll pass it to Crystal J.
Good morning, I'm Crystal Jackson. I'm the owner of Simply Being Wellness Counseling, which is a group therapy and wellness practice. We provide individual, group, and wellness consultations to corporations as well. I have been in business for 4 years, but this is my first full year being full-time. Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna throw it to Janora.
Thank you, Crystal. My name is Janora. I am the CEO and founder of the Self-Care Network LLC, and we are a diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm. And I am going to throw it to Latrell.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm traveling, so please disregard my camera being off. My name is Latrell Cower, and I own the Brown Skin Co., which is a skincare and waxing company. And I've been in business a little over a year. And I am going to pass it to Kibra.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kibra Smith Bolden. I own a few businesses here in New Haven, but I'm here to focus on my home care business, which is holistic home health care. We do personal care, companion and homemaking for low income and moderately income residents from New Haven. And we hire from within the community. And so I just want to learn how to scale and grow it. So that's why I'm here. I'm looking to see if there's somebody who didn't go. Let's see.
Jesse was not called.
Jesse, yes. What you doing here, Jesse? Hi, Jesse.
I was trying to eat my bowl of cereal without getting called on. Jesus Christ, yo. Good morning, everyone. Jesse Phillips from the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce, where I am the coordinator for inclusive growth, as well as DEI, as well as our young professional group, as well as our cannabis coordination. And it's good to be a knownpreneur and to be working with this cohort.
Did we miss anyone? Okay, so let the games begin. Basically, I wanted to get a little familiarity with you, and also it's also good to be able to loosen the group up by giving you an opportunity to say something that you know well, your name and what you do. And also just you provided some information for me as I begin this whole concept of scaling and talking about what is scaling. So this lecture will be proactive. So there will be a lot of interactivity that's going on. I'm not going to just drone on to you about what is going to happen. So there will be some assignments that you will do and some little games and activities that you will participate in. So there's like one of the major objectives is let's kind of deal with this notion of what is scaling in business. There's all kinds of scaling. So we're going to address the whole issue of scaling. Also, we're going to try to address the issue of growth versus scaling. Some people may think that they're the same, they're synonymous, but maybe there may be some unique differences between the two. Why do you need to scale up in your business? When is the right time to scale? And what are the best tips for scaling a business? So as I've gone around the room and listened to your quick elevator, I noticed that we have a range, if you will, of business experiences in the room. Some who are just starting, some who've been involved for a while. So what we will try to do is to go through this whole activity now and begin. So I'm going to share the screen. If you allow me to share the screen, my screen with you, please.
Jim, I'm gonna make you, if you're not able to see the share.
No, I'm waiting for you, yes.
Yep, okay, I'm gonna make you co-host so you can do that. All right, let me know if you can see it. Perfect.
Okay, so we're ready to talk about scaling a business, and most people think about scaling as something that's going straight up in the air, or you have some things. It's a different point of view with respect to what does scaling mean. It's not only objective, but it's also subjective. Let's begin and take a look at this whole concept of, let me put this on. We're all starting out at some point in time. There is a beginning, a middle, and maybe an end for some, if depending on the nature of your particular business. We also need to kind of demystify this process of going from 0 to $1 million. There are 28 million businesses roughly here in the US. 20 million of them or 71% are roughly small businesses. 80% or 22 million have no employees. Of 6 million that have employees, only 4% net $1 million. Kind of give me a show of hands of those who have one employee only, just one employee. Okay, 1 to 5. So basically what we have to talk about is getting prepared. How do we prepare to scale? And this is my mantra, which is proper preparation prevents poor performance. Some of my clients have been in business where they spent a lot of money to start a business, but have never gone through the whole vetting process of saying, what does it take? And they've used up all of their money, so they cannot operate. And now they're out looking for access to capital instead of trying to run their business. What I'd like you to do now is to take 5 minutes, and I would like you to write down for me, what are your growth, what are your objectives, and your goals. Your goals, of course, is subjective, and your objectives is quantifiable. So what I want you to do is to take 5 minutes and go from within 5 years, what will be your growth and what will be your objectives, and 10 years, where do you see yourself, both from a goal and objective standpoint? Let me know when you're ready. Okay, we will not share your goals and objectives at this time, but at the end of the presentation, we're going to go back to those goals and objectives and decide what do you need to do in order to meet those goals and objectives that you've laid out now. Most of you are familiar with a SWOT analysis, which basically talks about the the internal and external activities of your particular company. The other aspect is about this, you have to look in the mirror. So what I'd like you to do, if you have a mirror or if you will, your phone, and take a look at yourself in the mirror. And I want you to be very honest to say, look at you. I'll give you another 5 minutes, and so that this is another drill for you to take a look at what are your particular strengths and weaknesses as it relates to your business. What are your strengths and weaknesses as it relates to your business? So take a look in the mirror, because the mirror does not lie. The mirror will reflect accurately who you are and what you are. While you're doing that, let me kind of go through what the SWOT analysis is. As you begin to look at your business, you have to begin to look at two pieces. You have to look at what are your personal assets and what are your business assets. You have to be able to say internally, what are my particular strengths and weaknesses as a person or as a business? Those are things that you can control. Anything that you can control goes on the top part of this chart. That will be a strength or a weakness. An opportunity or threat, those are things that are beyond your ability to control. These are environmental factors that will affect your business or your life. These are things that you cannot control. So to be very accurate, you have to make sure that for this chart to work, you have to be very candid. You have to be brutally honest, because this becomes a vehicle, an action plan to determine how you're going to make your business or your life work. I know within the group, we have a lot of people who are involved with wellness and life sciences and stuff. I'm certain that these are some of the things that they also tell their clients. So this is just what allow. We're preparing ourselves to say how we're going to scale. From this particular document, and you will get someone who's going to go through this in much more depth and detail over in the upcoming weeks. But we have to have a business plan, and you have to start with that SWOT analysis. You have to understand what are the things that's going to bring success for you. What are the goals? That's why we started with a goals and objectives. Now, this is all segueing together, if you will. You'll see the linkage that's happening. Then, of course, we have to come up with the things that a lot of you have a great deal of this difficulty, and that's putting it all on paper and quantifying it. And we have to say, what's going to happen with my business? How much time is it going to take for me to do something? What do the numbers look? Because down the road, you're going to have to quantify all of your actions in such a way that you're going to have to do the financial projections. You have to know where you are before you can know where you're going to go. There are many ways in which you have to get resets. You have to do the market research. Many times, people will say, I think, but they don't know. In order to be able to run your business effectively, you have to know what your competitor is doing. You have to understand what are the governmental regulations. There are many things that you have to research So you can understand what are the opportunities and what are the limitations. So there are many ways in which you can get access to secondary information, and this information is free. Now we go to that part that everybody likes to smile about, and that is, how does startup funding work? Of course, this is all part of the scaling process. You need to have funds to scale. You first have an idea. You may work with someone, or you may do it by yourself. You may get money from your family and friends. You may get some sort of seed funding, or you then get a series of funding, and then you might get into an IPO. This is the process where you've taken an idea, going through a pre-startup, startup, scaling, and growth. So this is the whole way this whole thing looks at. You have this idea, but we have to be able to make that idea concrete in your mind. And you have to be able to articulate or verbalize what you want to do from this idea, and what is going to be the process to make it work for you. Do you have the right vision, mission statement? Do you have the viable product? Is there a good product market fit? And then how do we scale going forward? This is the business evolution that I'm sure that some of you have gone through, that has been in business for a while, but we're just now trying to put it in a snapshot so that you can get a good feel for what is pre-startup, startup, and then when take you into a growth. So now we're back at the big question. What is scaling? That is the capability of a business to perform well under an expanding workload. It is an effective way to increase performance even when tested with a larger outcome. How many of you have said, I'm pulling my hair out because I have so much to do. I don't know how I'm going to get it done. How well will it be done? So we're now beginning to take a look at when we're talking about scaling. What are the factors that's involved with scaling? Capability and capacity. You may have the capability to make your vision work, but you may not have the capacity to make it work under the current circumstances. So we have to look at the factors, and these are very, very important factors. First of all, we have to talk about organization.
Hey, James.
Yes,
I have
sir.
a question. Can you go back to
the,
can you go back to the last slide and just
sure, and please, you can interrupt at any point.
And go a little bit further and give it maybe either one or two examples of either how they interact with each other or connect to each other.
Okay. Suppose you may be very effective and know well everything involved with being able to be a chef. You can be a chef. You understand, you have all of the skills, you have the capability to be a chef and to run a chef. Run a kitchen, if you will. But you may not have the capacity, if you will, to make that business grow from maybe strictly an online sales, if you will, into running a white tablecloth restaurant. You don't have that capacity. Does that help you? So you have the knowledge, you have the skill set, but you don't have the wherewithal from a capacity standpoint to make it happen. Or you may have the capability to run a factory, but you don't have the funding capacity, if you will, to turn that around. So please, I welcome all questions. It makes it, as I said, this is an interactive session, and I don't want to bore you to death.
So Jim, can you flip that and make it something that's not product based? Because mine is, my skill set, my knowledge. How should I scale that? So I scale by adding people who either have the same knowledge base or fill in my gaps, and I bring them on as 1099s. So when you said employees, no, I don't have employees. I have contractors, I have subcontractors. So that's like scaling for me, but can you talk a little
No,
bit
no, no.
about industries that aren't like product based.
Don, that's a perfect example, because what you've done is, when I said employees, that might have been a misspeak on my part. It is people, if you will, who are able to help you in whatever form. And of course, for a lot of people, a 1099 is good, and we'll go through that throughout the presentation, if you will. So yes, it's not just product based; it's sometimes intellectual based or people based. Does that help you, Don?
It does. It does.
So how do we get there? From an organizational standpoint, as you mentioned, Don, it's people. How many people do you need? How many people can your business afford? Remember, that's always that trade-off between your pocketbook and your ability to make something work. What type of strategy do you have from an organizational standpoint in order to put yourself in a position so that you can grow? We all have, I'm sure that when we looked at your goals and objectives, you had some growth objectives built into that little scenario that you were working with. And how do you execute? One of the ways that you're solving your problem, Don, of course, is that you're working with your 1099s. A lot of people in the home health care, they have a lot of people that work with them, but they're not on the payroll because of the costs associated. And they're also, what you will, 1099 people. And then cash. From an organizational cash, are you in a position so that you can get funding, if you will, to run your business? So that's one of the first things that you want to look at. It's people, strategy, execution, and cash from an organizational standpoint. How many agree that growth and scaling are the same thing? And if so, Keeper, can you tell me about that? Do you look at growth and scaling as something one and the same?
Growth and scaling, one and the same. No, because I feel like you could grow without like expanding your reach or your services. Like I think of scaling in that way. Like, so like I could get more customers, but I think scaling is more than just getting more customers. I think it's like overall like changing your business structure, making it more effective, and then growing outward that way. If that makes sense.
I'm sorry, Keeper. Jesse, would you like to take a hit at that?
Oh, I was wrong.
Oh, no. I mean, to Keeper's point, I think scaling takes more of the building the infrastructure and capacity to have that overall reach for your product or your service.
So from that standpoint, you're looking at growth and scaling as two different entities, right? And there's a misconception among many people say, I'm growing, so therefore I'm scaling. So what we have to do is to say, okay, how do we separate the two? Growth refers to an increase in revenue. When companies grow, revenues grow as fast as resources are added to support the growth. Let's look at this scenario, this example. A company may gain $50,000 in new revenue, but they had to hire a new sales representative with a $50,000 salary, if you will. The net result, you've grown from a revenue standpoint, but you actually have not grown, you've actually not scaled the business because you've offset it with a significant amount or significant burden, if you will, of new expenses. Does not necessarily mean it has to be 50,000, it might be 40,000 to generate that, but you're only netting 10,000. So in essence, you're growing, but your business is not scaling. But let's look at scaling now. Same kind of example. This is the increase in revenue without increasing the cost of production. Don, that's what I hear you saying because you're using the 1099. You get $50,000 in new revenue, but you spend some amount of money for marketing or automating your particular business. So your gains outpaces your losses. So your company is growing, but it's also scaling. So we can see the difference, if you will, between just growth and scaling, where you actually you have a set strategy and an executable process in which you are able to grow and yet scale at the same time.
James, one last point, not to hold you up.
Sure, please, no problem.
So how come, I mean, for instance, like during scaling for some businesses that we probably didn't seen grow around the country, or whether it's, for instance, it could be a Facebook or any other type of multinational company, usually when they're scaling, why does it seem like they bring in an entire new team in that process, from management all the way to just restructuring how they're delivering their product? So I see what you're saying as far as the definition, but I don't see the infrastructure piece in the scaling as part of that.
Can I jump in there? Because I think I kind of see it now. I think
go ahead.
Like what I was saying about scaling, I had used the word efficiency, but I think that's basically what it is. Like, it's like, I think you do see new teams come in because they find people they can pay less, maybe work less, or whatever to get the same thing done, but that's how they grow, by changing these big, or whatever. Like, I know for me, I'm thinking about my business, and Mr. Nicholas, you know what I got going on. And I feel like I'm scaling now that I'm looking at this, where I would have said I was growing, because I got a contract and double my money. That was my revenue that I was bringing in. And I'm still making double that and paying staff without having to hire anybody new. So I scaled essentially, right? Okay, yeah, okay, I get it.
Anyone else have any comments? Any other thoughts with respect to this? This is the time now to, if there's any haze, if you will, or fogginess with respect to the topics, this is the perfect time to address it.
So I think if you could provide another example for businesses that might be a counseling service or something that is much more personal, that would be helpful as well. Because I think, like in my business, if there is an approach or a methodology that I use for a client, then my scaling is, if I got 10 clients that wanted to all do that same thing, then I use the same approach, teach it to some other people, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time I'm doing it. That's me scaling. But I want to make sure that everyone has a sense for their business on how to scale, what the difference is in them growing and them scaling. Because I think for each type of business we have here, it's not that clear. Like Kwame, for instance, could scale because he could be not in just 10 Whole Foods, he's in all the Whole Foods across the country. And he's figured out from a production perspective how to scale his business. So when I work for a client and they have 10,000, a health plan, they have 10,000 clients, and they're now going to get the whole state of California, I ask them, how are you going to scale? So how do you take it from the 10,000 that you're managing now to 100,000 lives? That's scaling. It's growth, but it's also like you need to scale whatever you were doing for 5 people to be able to do it for 25 people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Just so that everybody here has a sense of what that looks like for them.
Sure. If we go back here, and I think this addresses your question, Don, is how many people have to be involved in this whole process? If you've now gone from a region, if you will, or a small city to a whole state, how many people do you need in order to be effective in generating the revenue that's anticipated for this venture? Strategically, how are you going to do it? What are you going to put in place? What are the items that you're going to put in place that will make this work? And then how do you implement it? And then how much is it going to cost me? So irrespective of whether it's a manufacturing situation or if you're in a healthcare where you have clients that you're working with. For instance, suppose you have clients that's working in 3 or 4 different regions. How are you able to, you've got all this additional business now, but now you're centrally located. How are you going to scale? How are you going to make that business grow? Are you going to do one-on-one? Then you're still in the same, your top line may increase, but your bottom line may suffer. So it's all about how do you utilize people that's available to you? What is going to be a framework, if you will, in order to make it happen? And then what's the implementation? And I don't know how much time is spent by a lot of the small business with respect to strategy formation, because that's so critical. A lot of times you just want to go and do. You haven't thought about the implications until later. And then all of a sudden it hits you with respect to what is going on. Does that help you, Dawn, in any way?
No, it helps me. I just want to make sure that everybody, you know, can take what you're saying and apply it to their business. So it looks like, and I put it in the chat, so it looks like everybody's got it. So let's just keep it going.
Okay.
If you don't have it, like, we could circle back, but thank you for kind of bringing that back out. I appreciate it.
Okay. We talked about earlier about how many people have one or few, just have one, if you will, one person in the business, and how many people have multiple people in the business. Can we just go through that now as part from a standpoint of, Kim, you said you have one person or more, is that correct? You on me?
It's just me. I'm the one, but I hire out. So I have subcontractors to do things like teach, hang artwork, that kind of thing.
Okay. How about you, Jesse?
No, I do it for everybody else.
What do you mean by that, Jesse?
No, in other words, I mean, I work for the chamber.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Jesse, I forgot. Okay. Aaron, I see that you've joined us. What is your profile of your, what is the profile of your company? Is it just yourself, or you have multiple people working with you?
I contract out as well, just like Kim. I contract other teaching artists, and they teach the students.
Okay, so goofy. Anyone else that would like to share?
It's just me.
Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
Just yourself, okay.
Yeah, like my husband helps me, but he's not an employee.
Okay, okay. So, but you have a way of which you have someone to help.
Correct.
Anyone else would like to share?
Yes, my venture consists of, there's 4 of us currently. We're all family members that are pushing this forward. The family members really help more on the production side, and I'm really more the face of the company and trying to build relationships, either it be with VCs or other ways to just make the company grow. So there's 4 of us currently, and we also subcontract when we have to make a lot of our products for our wholesalers.
So Kwame, do you have them under, are they under some type of agreement with you, or are they on the business? Like, what's the setup that you have with your family members?
So they're all, and that's a good question, they're all on the business. We all work on the business part-time. I came up with the idea, but the point of me coming up with it was to involve family members. So I've given them equity in the company as well, just so that they can help with like production and other elements that I need them with. That's how it's structured currently.
Okay.
Anyone else would like to join in and share?
Yes, for my company, it's just me. I do all of the billing, the therapy, the advertisement. But this was helpful because now I'll be able to think about more about getting contractors or hiring people.
Crystal, what about you? Crystal from Milford?
I have recently hired 2 people to help me out, but for the longest time, I was doing it all by myself and I became very burnt out. So I recently hired a virtual assistant to manage my appointment book. And then I have a social media assistant that I'm training also. I don't have employees that work in the salon with me, but that's how I would like to scale my business, by adding more people to the team.
Before we move forward, I like for you to go and share with us at this point before we move on to the next stage. I'd like you to share with us, what are your growth? What's your vision, if you will? What's your goals, and what are your objectives for your at the 5-year space that you worked with when we started? So, what kind of goals and objectives do you have for your first, from 0 to 5, or if you're already at 5, from 5 to 10? We want the 5-year increment in. Who would like to start?
So I don't have all of that information, but I own a salon and there's about 15 of us here, and they're not employees, they're independent contractors. So I've been doing this for about 5 years and I go on a booth rental system. So instead of like raising their rent, I'm trying to figure out another way, because we've been doing it this way for so long, on how to scale and like get in a product situation. So that's what I'm trying to do now, so that it's not so much on what the staff can do for me, but like what can my business do for itself. So that's why I'm moving to like the product-based industry, so that I can scale more to gain revenue. So that's what I'm trying to do in like the next 5 years. Well, hopefully like this year. But I business will continue to grow if I use that model instead of like, putting all that pressure on the stylist that I have.
All right, that's good, because the goal is the subjective and the objective is the quantifier.
Right.
Okay, who else would like to share something? Perhaps someone who has not spoken yet. Shall I play teacher and call someone? Crystal Jackson.
Just knew you were going to call me. I should have just said something. So I have 2 employees and I'm bringing on a 3rd one. So for private practice, the way that we grow in scales to add on people who can take more clients for one-to-one or other services. So that's the objective, is to be able to, for me, to be able to pay them as full-time with benefits. So that means we need to be able to increase our community partnerships and referrals and be able to generate more revenue for the company. So that's kind of the objective and the goal of how we're going to do that. And then also, because my business has kind of 2 prongs, where we also do like the educational consultation side of it. So that's just kind of pitching more, engaging more, and definitely leveraging what I already have as far as content. But most of the time I do content myself. I did have somebody doing social media for a little while. I do have a biller, so that's off of my hands, and I have an assistant that I need to utilize better. So those are things that both personally will help me as the business owner, but also that's going to move the business forward.
Kwame, tell me a little bit about your story. From what were your 5-year goals and objectives?
Sure. I have a lot, but I will try to consolidate and at least share a few that I have. So the primary one is to become a household brand and the premier West African brand as well when it comes to CPGs. I definitely want to build a sustainable brand that is like committed to supporting the growth of the local and international communities. Would love to provide employment opportunities for the immigrant and refugee community in New Haven and in New York as well. In terms of objectives, build a full production facility to meet the demands of our buyers, the wholesale and retail, partner with Iris and Yale on refining the plan to actually do that, and also including Ghanaian fishermen in our supply chain. Move to phase 2 of this brand, which is also opening a retail fast casual Ghanaian and West African restaurant within the next 5 years. Expanding our product line to include 5 additional products by 2023 year end, and also hiring a marketing strategist and content creator to build brand awareness.
Okay, okay. See, this discussion that we have now is kind of supporting a couple of the poll questions that were raised earlier before we started, if you will, this presentation. So it just kind of reinforces now when you have to go back and think about it now in context. It makes it look, you may have come up with different answers than what you had originally. Let's talk about the business roadmap. We know that there are different growth plans and paths. We have, as you had mentioned before, Kim, there are a variety of industries and each have a different business model. There are differences between competing in high school, college, and the pros. Let's go back to a scenario. Aaron, you may have been a major player in high school as far as athletics is concerned. But when you moved forward, you got the scholarship to go to college. All of a sudden, you're competing with many other people who were stars, if you will, in their respective high schools. And therefore, it's not as easy as it was before. And just suppose that you really do really well in college from an athletic standpoint, and you get a pro contract. Now, all of a sudden, you're competing against the best of the best. So there is a difference in that level of competition that you had, and what may have worked for you in the high school and college level may not work at the pro level. We can look at it the same way from business is concerned, from business or academics. You may have done well in your respective high school or college, but then when you go to postgraduate work or graduate work and beyond, it becomes a different challenge. So different things matter at different levels of revenue and team size. So the question that I'm posing to you is, when do you know when you have an industry dominated competition crushing strategy? Again, we're back to that word of strategy. Strategy formation is critical. It's just not something that's air, it's something that's concrete. So when do you know when you're in that position that you can be the dominant player? And of course, it makes difference of what is your level of revenue, your team size. What is your market niche? You may be a major player in a small pond, but a minor player in a big pond. So you have to understand that there are strategies, if you will, with respect to your growth and your scaling that you have to address. I asked the question, how many of you had just one employee? This is the I do it stage. This is the point where creating value is the end game. You can't get stuck in ownership mentality because business is their baby. There are so many owners who view their business as their child. And if as mothers and fathers, you know, if someone does something to your children, you know what your reaction would be. So people sometimes take that same concept to actually where it becomes a disabling and negative factor for them. You may have an opportunity to grow and scale, but because you say, this is my baby and you're going to stick to it, then you want to do all the work yourself. You believe that there's no one better than you who can perform that function. You're the best mom, the best dad, the best teacher. When do you know when to release and have arm's length with your business versus your personal interest? Yes, you had the vision. You've laid out a strategy. You've begun to implement, and you've started to do well. But have you done as well as you could have done if you had shared your ideas, your thoughts, and worked with someone else? So as a entrepreneur, a solopreneur, how do you solve a problem and get compensated? And I've heard some very interesting things today in the course of this presentation of how people are looking at problems and how they are solving them. And then how do you make the value equation work? How do you make the value equation work? How are you able to get maximum value for the effort that you put in? But here are the things why we like the I do it stage. We may be new to the industry, not necessarily new to to business, but new to a particular industry. So the first thing that you're looking at as you're sitting down at your desk is this: how do I generate revenue? You need to know who are the clients and what are their needs. How do you find out and develop who are your clients? And then how are you able to accommodate their needs? We know one of the positives of being alone is you have low overhead. You're not paying anyone else. The benefits are not being utilized for other people. And you get to keep 100% of the revenue. And you have no or few employees. So those are people, if you will, who are what I would like to call solopreneurs. So when you lay out that model, when you start to look at your startup funds, you're starting to look at what you need to do to generate the revenue. You need to say, well, how do I find the clients, and where are the clients? Many times you're running around in a circle. And then when that first month comes in and you see that that revenue has not been generated, then what do you do? What do you do? Yes, you have low overhead. You got 100% revenue, but 100% of nothing is still nothing. And you have no or few employees. This is what's happening with the solo entrepreneur. You start, it looks as though things are going to go well for you. You have this vision, and you have all these rainbows that you have, and there's going to be a pot at the end of this rainbow. And now you're in month 5 or month 6, and you're looking at your projections, and you have not realized your projections. Then do you get disheartened, or you step back and revisit your strategy? Again, another characteristic of the solo entrepreneur is this. When you start, every opportunity comes to you, you run after. Even though your business plan or your business model may say go left or go right, but someone comes up with something different. And you say, yes, I'm suffering, my plan's not working, I have not generated the revenue. So I'm going to say yes. But do you say no 20 times more than you say yes? Because when you're chasing that rabbit 20 times, it's taking you away from doing what you're really intended to do from a vision and a goal orientation. So success starts with saying yes, but when you say no, you're able to maintain the direction. So in the beginning, you say yes until you have the luxury to say no. Does this scenario ring with the members of this teaching that we're doing today? How many
Yes, it
people say
does.
this makes sense, huh?
Jim, it rings so loud to me right now because I have someone that's working with me and they want me to raise funds through the medical industry. And instead of looking at art from artists in the community, they want me to do art with the medical industry, which sounds like a great idea. And the medical industry will give me money versus me looking to the community to raise money from grants and that kind of thing. He's saying that the medical community will give it to me. But that's not where I'm at yet. You know, that sounds like something down the line. That doesn't sound like something I want to do immediately. My focus is sustainability, teaching artists how to sustain themselves, not getting into mental health and art. And so I've had to really ask myself, is that what I want to do now? And I've been pushing against it. And so this is right on time. So thank you. So saying no has been really hard for me, but I have to, because it's another direction, not really what my business plan is saying, not really where my head is. So yeah, this is great.
But at the same time, we know that's a problem that we all wrestle with. You know, what direction do we take? But at the same time, we know when we're struggling trying to get started, there may be some short-term opportunities that we may say yes to, but we know long-term that's not the direction we want to go. So that's why we say at the beginning, you get success maybe with yes, but you have to say no somewhere down the line where you know it's not going to benefit your business long-term. So I really like this chart because, you know, there are a lot of clients who can say, you know, this opportunity keeps coming up and you can look at it because your arm's length from it and say it's not going to be something that's going to be beneficial to your business. But short term, it may generate some revenues. And if you need revenues to offset your expense burden, then of course you say yes. But if it takes you away from where you want to go, that it's not something that happens. So, but in the beginning, yes, but when you have the luxury to say no, be able to say no, even though it looks like it's a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have something that they would like to share in that and on behalf of this kind of a concept?
I have a question, but it's more pertaining to the previous slide. So could you please go back to the previous slide just so we have a reference point?
Uh-huh.
I just want to ask, I mean, most of us really are in kind of like the genesis of our ventures. And I really want to know what are some sound ways that we can make sure that our revenue models are sound enough so that our businesses can be sustainable and for us to really scale with those revenue models as well.
Okay. The first thing is you have to make sure that you have done the research. You have to make sure that the revenue, there is a solid foundation for the numbers that you put up. You need to run the different, if you will, the revenue models. You need to run the different scenarios in which you can challenge yourself, looking, if you will, in the mirror and making certain that the numbers that you have are realistic, that your ability to capture X, Y, or Z client is something that's doable. Then you run those models. You might even, if you're just starting, if you have the luxury of the funding, you might even run a little beta test. You might find a little test market, a little smaller area, and run and see if this will work. If your strategy and your approach will work in a area in which you can really you can explain, if you will, if where things are going wrong, or what do you need? Where's the problem, if you will, in your approach and your thinking? Sometimes we may have this very elite, we can run all these algorithms, etc. But if the formula somewhere in the formula is wrong, the answer is not going to come out the way you would like. But you can't force the answer. So I suggest that you do a significant time of vetting before you turn on the spigot. Does that help?
It's helpful. For my venture, I did have beta round of testing. I did just market research where I was essentially just giving my product away for free just to see what the reaction would be. I think it's a bit different when you have a CPG versus the other ventures that are, part of this cohort. So really asking the question if there could just be a different perspective provided for the others in the room as well.
Anyone else have questions with respect to this particular subject?
I personally feel like I'm sorry, go ahead. Did I cut somebody off?
No, Aaron, you can speak.
You personally hitting spot on with a lot of things pertaining to me, because sometimes I'm a little too overly ambitious. And especially with like particularly my academy, because the Breed Academy is really helping out in the arts community, which is really lacking in the Black and brown community. So, for me being in this industry, I know all the components that are lacking, and I'm trying to nail them all at one time. And ultimately, it's put me in a really weak space where I can't really, perform at my highest ability, and the academy can't either. So you really like hitting the spot on for me.
Anyone else would like to share, positive or negatively?
I was just going to share that when I opened my second location, I really wanted to put a lash tech in there. And I was like searching high and low, trying to find people, marketing, just trying to use word of mouth, different avenues to find a lash tech. And then at the end of the day, I realized, it was just a space that needed to be filled. So it didn't matter who I put in that space, as long as they were providing a beauty service. So now I have a teeth whitening technician there, and she's been, and it's been, almost a year that she's been there, and we haven't had any hiccups. So I just say that to say, sometimes you have to put your current to the side in order to like propel, because I'm still getting money I'm trying to get, just not from the person I expect to get it. So that's all I had to say about that.
But what kind of decision models do you usually use in order to deal with these kinds of questions?
Are you asking me that question personally or for everyone?
I'm throwing it out generally to anyone that would like to respond.
Okay.
My intuition, I guess. I just think it's a personal decision.
I was going to say, I think based off of scaling your business and what you have the capacity to handle, I think that if something for me, booking appointments, I've been in my business for a little under 2 years, and booking people became very overwhelming. And that's like such a small task that I could give that away to someone else. So that was like a very minor way of scaling my business. And that came just from exhaustion.
Okay. Anyone else would like to share?
James, I could chime in. Yeah, so depending on the industry, of course, but for service industries, typically one metric that is used is acquisition cost per client acquisition cost. So it's all the costs that are involved in really acquiring a client. Everything from marketing, your outreach, your selecting the customer, vetting it, going through the whole process. What that takes until you really get the contract and it happens. So it might be that you have to go through 10, 20 outreach to get one customer. So whatever that effort costs, you have to factor in the process. To really understand what it really takes to get to that customer and what the revenue potential of that customer is. So it's a little model that tells you, what the top line is going to be, the revenue per client, and as well as the cost per client. So when you do it on a per client basis, you're going to be able to see what it's called the gross margin is going to be of that additional client is going to be contributing to your business overall. If it's a product, it's cost of goods sold. It's basically, what the cost of producing that good, that additional unit will cost, and what the revenue of that unit is. And the revenue minus that cost of goods sold, you gets you to the gross profit. So then the question is how many units you need to produce in order to cover your fixed costs. We're going to talk more about this when we go to the financial statements and budgeting class. But those are two decision models that typically are involved in scaling a business.
Okay, thank you, Juan. But then we can go to another level, and sort of some of you kind of gone out of the, if you solopreneur, if you will, into a different level. And this is the level we call we do it. You work with someone together, we will, from a strategic plan. We'll be able to leverage, if we'll use this leverage, which will increase our profit. This is the reason some people become rich and others do not. Because people are challenged and uncomfortable with delegation. People are uncomfortable by saying, I'm going to let someone else do it. Even if you're in a family cohort where you have family members, there may be some members of the family that you do not want to delegate something to. It becomes a challenge to find someone to run the business. You are looking for someone who may not want neither part ownership nor huge salary. There are people who want to do something to be part of this business because they love to work, they love the challenge, and they want to do something. Are you aware that with respect to most businesses, the second generation that runs that business, that the father or mother has taken all of this time and effort to grow and scale. But when they give it to the second generation, it is not run in the same way, and many times it fails. They don't have the same goals. They don't have the same ambition that the first generation had. As you look at your business, Crystal, you have to be comfortable that if you want someone to run that business with you, that they're going to run it the way you would like it to be run, or in the best interest of the company. There's always the fear that something's going to happen from a negative standpoint when you entrust others with your child, if you will. We started with the child, but it's still your child. You're not just going to leave your child with anyone. The training, how much time and effort are you willing to spend to train someone to bring them up to the level that they can work with you? But more importantly, Crystal, it frees you up to do what you do best. It frees you up to be that business person, can go out and get that next deal, or get that next financing, or to expand the business in some way, because you're not burdened with all these other mundane things that you've been doing as a solopreneur. You're running the mail, you're doing the books, you're doing X, you're doing Y. And you're bringing coffee and donuts in the morning too, maybe. But that's what you do as the owner. But once you get freed up, you're now able to use your specific skills to help the business grow and scale. Then we take the third level, is what we call they do it. We're now going to a structured organization. We now have financial options. We have a strategic plan. You can see strategy is woven throughout this whole presentation. Being able to evaluate and identify options are very, very important in the growth of your particular business. If you want to be successful, you want to go to a business that it is structured and organized. When is it time to scale? When is it time to scale? If there are business opportunities out there that are beyond your ability to realize them or to execute them, and you cannot afford the extra work, or the cost of increasing revenue are greater than cost, then it's time to begin to think about scale. Again, we're not talking about growth, but we're talking about scale. Does this particular slide, is this applicable to anyone that we're talking to today, or someone who's thinking about moving forward down the line? Yes, Crystal, Cleve? Yes, Crystal?
Oh, no, I was just answering the question. It applies to me because I'm the only stylist in the studio. So oftentimes, like, I can only take but so many people. I can only do but so many people at one time. So I do find myself turning away a lot of business and a lot of different appointments.
Anyone else would like to share? Renee, would you like to share?
Sure. We turn down a lot of people here because we don't have enough. We have a lot of staff, but I feel like there's so many clients out there that want to frequent with us, but there's not enough people working. So we have the clientele base, but I don't have space where I am to add any more stylists. So it makes it kind of difficult in the space that I'm.
So one of the things that you might be looking at would be maybe a bigger facility.
Mm-hmm.
If the business opportunity is there, of course, you have to look at the cost benefit.
Right.
So that is the only limiting factor, is the infrastructure, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Melissa, what about you? Because I know you've got an interesting situation. What do you think about this?
I'm sorry, give me one moment. I have a 3-year-old here with me.
That's okay.
No, I definitely, I like this slide because I know that with my business, with the clothing and jewelry, I know that I cannot scale if I'm doing, currently now, my husband is printing all of the clothing. Sorry.
It's okay.
But I know that I need to go the drop shipping route if I want to be able to scale. So that way I have somebody else handling the, making the clothing items and shipping it out for me. So I don't have to worry about that.
Kim,
Melissa.
I'm sorry, I'm listening, go ahead.
Melissa, do you make jewelry as well?
No, I actually get that from a supplier, from one of my vendors.
But you do sell it?
Yes, ma'am.
Are these yours?
I believe, yeah, those are mine.
I thought so.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Kim, do you have any issues with respect to delegation?
No, I do not have a problem delegating. I have 6 children, a wife, a nana that lives with me, and a dog. I do not have a problem giving work away. And so far, I have 2 people working with me to help me organize workshops, and I have another person that's working with me organizing my social media and website. That's the first 2 things, because my physical location is not ready yet.
Okay. I can give you another example of about time to scale. There is a company that is involved in the transportation industry that has X amount of vehicles. And according to the business model, this X amount of vehicles would be able to generate Y revenue. However, once he got into the business, it became apparent that at that level, he needed to not only to grow, but to scale if he were to meet his goals and objectives. Because his business model was based on X, but there were other issues that presented itself, which usually does with any business. So it did not allow him to reach, if you will, the maximum level of revenue that he had generated. So now he has to, in order to scale, he has to look and say, do I need a partner to work with me? Not only a physical partner, but maybe a collaborative company to help to take care of the overflow. So he can scale in a lot of different ways. He could have this union, if you will, to help him scale. So when we look at the time to scale, there are a lot of different ways that you can solve that particular problem. So there are several tips to scale a business. One, we talked about capability and capacity early. We have to build an impressive skill set. You have a skill set. You have to acknowledge what is that skill set as far as you're concerned. What is that skill set? Networking and collaboration. A lot of people are not familiar with how to network, or they're reluctant to get in front of someone else, to let people know your story, to see if you can get some connectivity for collaboration. Basically, you're doing this now in a way by being with Known. You're doing both networking and collaboration, if you will, as a result of being part of the Known program. You have to be willing to invest in technology. That device that you used 5 years ago is not the same device that's available today in order to help you with your efficiency or to help you go to the next level. So you have to be willing, and in your plan, you have to set aside the money that you need for technology. Technology is critical. You cannot be afraid of technology. You need to understand and learn what are the upsides and the downsides of working in a technology environment. You also need to standardize your procedures or your processes. How do you standardize what you're doing, or is it all over the place? Are there different things that you're doing rather than having a model that's laid out for everyone with whom you work, so everyone's going and pulling in the same direction? Find that strategic partnership or that A team, that person or persons that you really can depend upon. So if something were to happen to you or you had to go out of town, the business could continue to flourish. What good is going on a vacation when you're constantly looking back to see what you left? If you're supposed to get relaxed, if you will, and release, if you will, the tension. If it's all on you, how can you take a vacation? I've heard people say, I haven't had a vacation in 5 years. Well, who's that on? There's something obviously wrong with that if you've not been able to find time, if you will, for yourself. But if you're so integrated, your person is so integrated in your business, that 1 equals 1. How do you be able to make that distance? How are you able to achieve that distance? What does your company really need? Is your vision the same today as it is 5 years from now? Has the business changed in such a way and you haven't kept pace with the business? You're afraid of interrupting what you have, and you may be comfortable, but you have a growth objective of 10% or 15% over the next 5 years. But you're doing well, but you're not achieving that growth objective that you originally laid out. What's your competitive edge that you have? What competitive edge does your company have? All of these are important if you're going to scale and grow. You need to know what elements differentiates me from the competition so that I can take advantage. And where do I target as far as finding my customers? Is there a focus on increasing sales? To what point can you increase sales until you hit a limiting factor? How can you scale if you don't increase your sales? And what are you going to do to boost your marketing effort? There are different levels of marketing. We have different types of businesses. Each business has its own unique marketing skills. Each has its marketing challenges and opportunities. We're back to the mirror. We're back to the mirror. We're looking at this gentleman now, who basically, this is how he looked when he started, or his grandson is now assumed. Look at him. He was an entrepreneur. He became self-employed, business owner, and his own boss. He's now saying, I was up to the challenge. Are you up to the challenge? Do you have a scaling mentality? I would like now you to go back to the second part of the first task that you were assigned, and that is to say, where are you now 10 years from now? What goals and objectives do you have for the 10th year of your business? And what are the factors, or what is required in order to make that a reality? So I'll give you a couple of minutes to take a look at that, and then we'll have a little chat about that.
Jen, I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
On the prior slide that you had, I kind of, would it be possible for you to at least give us some kind of examples on how exactly we can hone in on our target audience, just so that we can actually define our strategies better?
Okay, sure. First of all, your target audience is a function of many things. Are you going to be a local, regional, or national business? That's the first things that you have to worry about. Who are your competitors? Within that realm, who are your competitors? Is there a niche in which your business can operate and be successful as a small business? And where is that niche? Do I need someone to help me from a strategic standpoint achieve that 10-year goal? Because what we looked at for 5 years, maybe as a solo entrepreneur or a person with 2 or 3 people, may not work in year 10 if we want to scale our business up 20%. So we need to know, what is the arena that we're playing in? Who are the people playing in that arena? What are the competitive obstacles? Is there any regulatory or licensing requirements that may impact our ability to do business? Does that help you?
It does. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions along in the same line or something a little bit different? Okay, who would like to talk a little bit about based on what you've seen with this presentation, as far as it's helping you to think more closely about the type of business and where you want to go, what are the things that you would need to do now in year 10 that you're not doing now, as far as achieving your goals and objectives? Who would like to help me with starting this off? Crystal Jackson, I haven't heard from you today.
I'm sorry, I had to step away the last couple minutes, so I missed that section.
Okay, Kibra, would you like to help me with that question? Where are you going to be? You said you have multiple businesses. Where are you going to be 10 years from now, and what do you need to do in order to make that happen?
So I have a tendency, I have the opposite issue. I think a lot of people have where they want to hold on to everything. I have a tendency to be like, do it. Everybody else can do it. And so what I know I need to do over the next 10 years to make my goals happen is to be more hands-on and more involved and making sure that I have my pulse on everything happening with my businesses. But my goals, I mean, between my businesses, I hope to be able to offer more services to the community, create more jobs. And I do have numbers on that and increase my revenue and with the businesses I have, they should be multi-million-dollar revenue streaming companies. So, learning how to manage that is going to be very important. And so, yeah, that's my goal.
Who else? Did I hear someone else? Renee?
Yes. So for me, it's the total opposite of that. I am way too involved in every single aspect of my business. I do social media. I do online booking for 10 people. I plan events. I plan community service. Like I do every single thing for my business. So in 10 years, so I don't get burnt out and be, withered somewhere. I really need to build a back office and a team of people that I can trust that are not so much my stylists, but like people who have specialties in areas that I know how to do, that they know how to do better. And I need to have some more trust with others because I don't have that.
Okay, so so trust becomes if you will, a major obstacle as far as your ability to delegate.
Yeah, I don't delegate anything. I'd rather just do it myself because I automatically think that I'm going to have to go over what you've already done for me.
So that's interesting. Is that an issue that others on this call have, that you have this trust issue?
Yes, definitely.
Everything that Renee said.
I definitely agree with Renee as well. I think when you're starting a venture, there's this need to be a perfectionist. You want to make sure that whatever product that you're giving to customers, they have the best version of it. And it's definitely something that's difficult for me as well. But in having my hands so full into this business at this standpoint, in addition to my day job, which is also demanding, I'm a senior manager in a tech company. So it's hard to have so many hands in this business while still handling other things in our day-to-day lives. So definitely building that trust just for other people to really be able to assist us in a venture. I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room that would definitely agree with that too.
How are you able then to, if trust is such a major issue, and I had a feeling about that would come out, is how do you develop a mindset that you can bring trust, if you will, into part of your activities, if your operational activity, so that you don't burn yourself out or lose opportunities because you can't do everything by yourself?
I think one thing is that what I've learned from this call and just this time being here is that I need to spend more time training other people on how to do things the way I like them to be done. So then if I'm trained, then there's no excuse for me because I trained them to do it how I want it to be done, or I train people to answer the phones how I want them to be answered, or reply to emails and DMs and just the various ways that clients try to communicate. So I just think that it's trying to create that brand identity, but spread it out so that everybody knows exactly what it's supposed to be. So then there's no room for not giving out the perfect product, as Kwame said.
So as part of the training, would a policies and procedure or some sort of manual would so that we can talk about something that's done the way it should be done, and the deviations from that should be small. Therefore, would that help to build trust?
A lot of major companies that I've been following, they have a system put in place for their new stylists or for their any employee. Because I worked for a day spa in Stanford, in which they had a hair salon, beauty salon, full makeup, spa in the back with estheticians, and everybody had a system that they followed. There was a certain way that they spoke to customers. It was like a bunch of clones. And I'm not saying that that's the greatest thing, because you want people to have their own identity, but for sure it kept the brand strong and it kept the professionalism amongst the amongst the employees.
So you're saying standardization is important, but you
Yeah.
still want to have your own creativity
Right.
associated with your business involved in that standardization. Is that correct?
Right. You didn't feel like you were working with robots, but there definitely was a similarity amongst all of the employees there. There was definitely like an even vibe amongst everyone, because that was just the morale of the facility.
And this is an important issue, and this is an underlying issue that a lot of people have to address, and they're afraid to say it. They'll come up with other excuses as to why they don't want to bring someone on, but they're all about trust. Yes, Kim.
I think the other thing is that usually when we're starting a business or we're fresh in a business, we have a tendency to go to the people that we know. We go to our friends, we go to our friends' kids, or they're young enough that we can bring them in. And a lot of times they don't have the skill set that we need, or they have one skill set, but they don't necessarily have the other. And so we find ourselves in a situation where we don't have the trust in them because we know them as friends first. And so a lot of times that puts us in a really peculiar position, when it might be easier to just hire someone we don't know, that we look at, actually see their resume and see the skills that they've developed over the years. And a lot of times that's really difficult to do when we have access and we want to bring up the people in our circle and in our environment, which is really difficult. I'm dealing with that with reaching out to professional friends, but I need their skill set. But then I'm hiring them for an hour, but I spend a half an hour talking to them about, well, how's the kids? And, and that's not okay. So I know other stuff gets involved in that too. And that's something that we need to look at as we're developing our businesses.
Okay. This is great. I know we're running down on time.
I guess I just want to echo what Kim said, because I think as BIPOC business owners, we also do that. Like, we want to bring people along with us and include people in our growth. But I also think we also have to think about what do I need to get my business from point A to point B? And then who else can I bring in? And I think we have to treat our businesses like, businesses, and hire the people that are good for our business and that take a little bit of the stress off of us so that we can, grow our business and not be in the business all the time. And I think that's where sometimes we get mixed up. I think when I work with people, I chat with them, I interview them, and I go with my gut. Like, this person has the same work ethic and wants to produce just like I want to produce. And the quality of their work is similar to the quality of my work. And that's the expectation. Okay, we can work together. There's a level of trust there. Like, if I know I have to bring you along, maybe at a different point in my business, I can bring you in. But when I'm trying to build a brand, I need a different set of people. Like, that's just how I think about it. And sometimes you get one shot. So you have to think about, how many times do I get to sit in front of this client, and I need to bring the best and the brightest with me to this meeting, not somebody I'm trying to bring along. Like, there's a role for everybody. We just have to figure out when the right time is to bring them into the business.
Fantastic. Well, the purpose of this presentation was for you to begin to really go into some thought, into some depth about where you want to be with your business and how it's going and what it's going to look like, and what it's going to take from you to be able to achieve those goals. So it's been, for some, I know it may be a little uncomfortable, some of the things that we talked about, but it has to be thought-provoking. And you have to be successful. Sometimes you have to take that pain, if you will, of making a mistake, but if you think about it prior to, you can minimize, if you will, you can minimize the pain. So in a nutshell, everything starts from your idea. You had an idea of what you wanted to do. Then the hard part is say, where do I want to be in 10 years? That's why we went through that little activity, if you will, of a 5 and a 10 years. What are going to be the core values? Are they going to change? Is our vision changing or our brain changing? Over the next 10 years, you may see it's not going to be the same. You're going to see some changes in how you do business and where you want to be. And then we're back to our buddy here, the strategic plan, which I think Anne-Marie Knight is going to talk to you about next week, or her business plan. And that, can you state your firm's strategic thrust? Where are you going with your business? Is the plan sustainable? Or is it going to just burn out? Does the plan drive sustainable revenue and gross margin growth? And again, this is what Juan talked about. Are you treating the SWOT analysis seriously? As Michael Jackson used to say, it's the man in the mirror. I had that little thing to play, but it didn't work for me. I was going to play that with the mirror. But you have to look carefully, because see, the SWOT analysis is an environmental scanning, which gives you the information you need to put together an actionable strategy and implementation plan. That is critical. So every business should start with the SWOT. You may want to take a look at yourself personally, and you may want to look at the business, and then see where do they merge. Then you might see there's some things that are antithetical, that go against what you want to do. And again, like we said, look in the mirror. To me, I think that's so critical. It's important that you be candid and you do not try to fool yourself. Particularly, your business is too important. So if are there any further questions that I'd like to answer, or you'd like to ask me about something that you've seen or heard or have some doubts about, etc.? So you guys are all skilled now in looking at the ability to go from this idea through the growth and through scaling. So I feel we all comfortable with those concepts? Or would you like to chat a couple more minutes? We have a couple more minutes if you like.
Can I ask, where are the best places to find different employees to help grow your business? Like outside of, like, for instance, I'm a hairstylist. So outside of like the artists, where would I find like maybe not so much of an accountant, but like maybe someone that manages like the scaling of the business outside of me? Because right now I'm an artist. So like, where would be the places that you connect with people who handle things like that? And obviously they don't have to be familiar with the hair business, but just that line of work in general, like the more business side.
Okay, you're looking for people who are creative in a lot of respects, right?
Yes.
So not being in that business, I don't like to give advice to people about things that I'm not knowledgeable about, but I would think that one area that you might want to look at might be the schools or the colleges, because a lot of these people are very creative, but they don't have the wherewithal or nowhere to go. And you may be able to mentor someone like that and bring them in as an apprentice in your business rather than full scale. I don't know whether that kind of rings clear with you, but there may be other people that you know who can give you much better advice.
Thank you.
Jim, if I may add, Crystal, I think if you're seeking at least assistance with someone to help you build your financial models, or just like hone in on your business models or revenue models, there You could go to Upwork. It's a platform where you can find individuals that are experts in that field. You kind of just give them details in your business plan or what you're trying to achieve, and they can help you mold that just so that you can build that sustainable brand. And to Jim's point as well, you can also source in universities. There are a lot of different business students that are more than willing to help you with your company as well. So that's also another way you can find it.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions, I'd like you to thank you for the opportunity in all these various languages, if you will, to be able to interact with you today. This has been very helpful to me. Every time I work with a group, I find it informative and I learn. And I think that's important, that we have to continue to learn. If we want to be static, then why you would know? Because this is a learning, if you will, environment. You're going to meet a lot of different people who have a lot of different ideas, some of which you will accept, some of which you will reject. But basically, you are putting yourself in a position where you have knowledge, and knowledge is king. And with that, I'll turn it back to Juan.
Well, Jim, thank you so much. I thought it was a really reflective session. I mean, I like the fact that we could go from the macro and big examples of scaling a business to really going into practical examples. I think that the more we do that, the more we tie in the theory, academic theory about growing larger businesses to what's happening in each little business that's happening here. Most of the businesses that we have in the KNOWNpreneur program are businesses that are in the early stages of growth, just starting to put everything together. So, zeroing into more, detailed examples like that, it is the better. I mean, you will find that as we go along in the program and you see the financial aspects and the, analyzing budgets and costs and all that, and the business planning, you will find that all of this is going to come back to you saying, okay, oh, this is what, Jim was talking in the first session. So we're going to be a little bit of, Dawn and the team is going to be doing a little bit of integration on those topics for you. Any feedback you could give us will be, great. We have a little poll, I think, coming up. So anything that you could help us to improve the program is appreciated. Jim, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you, man. This was great.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. I will be mentoring a couple companies in the process. So I look forward to seeing all of you at some point. Okay, with that, we'll turn it back over to the person who's responsible for putting all this together.
Latina. Is Latina there?
No, yeah, she was on mute.
I'm here.
Okay.
Is that me? Okay. So thank you, Jim, so much for this presentation. It was awesome. To everyone, you will see the recording on the site in the same spot that I sent in the email, probably within the next 48, maybe 72 hours. I'm going to post that out. I'll put it in Slack when it is available if you want to review it. And with that, I think we're done. We did it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.